that braid, and I went, I think I like it.
I think I like
I think I like it.
Yeah.
For decades, Oprah Winfrey stood in front of the world as a symbol of strength, success, and spiritual calm. She built an empire from nothing, inspired millions, and became one of the most powerful women in media, turning a daytime talk show into a global brand now estimated to be worth over $2.5 billion. From television and publishing to film, wellness, and her own network, Oprah didn't just create success. She built an entire industry around her name. But behind the polished interviews, billion-dollar deals, and carefully chosen words was another story unfolding quietly, one marked by childhood trauma, private battles, and emotional scars she didn't share on camera. While fans saw confidence and control, Oprah was carrying pain most people never imagined. So what was really happening when the lights went off? And how did she survive a life split between public triumph and private struggle? Let's get into it. Oprah Winfrey's hidden childhood, the pain she carried before the world knew her. Everyone looks at Oprah Winfrey like she holds the answers to life's hardest questions, like she figured it all out somewhere along the way. But while the world was listening to her for guidance, Oprah was quietly searching for answers of her own. She was born on January 29, 1954, in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Her birth certificate read Orpah Gail Winfrey, named after a biblical figure from the Book of Ruth, but people kept mispronouncing it, and Oprah stuck. Her mother, Vernita Lee, was still a teenager, working long hours as a housemaid. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, was a coal miner turned barber, who later became a city councilman. They never married. When Oprah entered the world, Vernon was serving in the armed forces, and almost immediately, life pulled her in different directions. After her birth, her mother headed north, leaving Oprah behind in rural poverty with her grandmother, Hattie Mae Lee. For the first 6 years of her life, that small Mississippi home became her entire universe. They were so poor that Oprah sometimes wore dresses made from potato sacks, something other children mocked without mercy. But inside that hardship, something else was forming. Her grandmother taught her to read before she turned 3, took her to church, let her stand in front of congregations reciting Bible verses with a confidence far bigger than her tiny frame. Soon they were calling her the preacher. At home, discipline came hard and often, rooted in old beliefs about toughness and survival, but it was also Hattie Mae who planted the earliest seeds of Oprah's voice, her presence, and her sense of self. At 6 years old, Oprah was sent to live with her mother in Milwaukee. The move traded open fields for inner-city streets and childhood simplicity for long days spent mostly alone. Vernita worked non-stop, trying to keep food on the table. Around that time, Oprah gained a younger half-sister, Patricia, who would later die from complications linked to addiction. By 1962, the pressure became too much, and Oprah was sent again, this time to Nashville, to live with her father. While Oprah stayed with Vernon, her mother gave birth to another daughter, who was placed for adoption in hopes of easing the family's financial strain. Oprah wouldn't even learn she had this second half-sister until decades later. By the time she eventually returned to Milwaukee, her mother had also had a son, Jeffrey, who would later die of AIDS-related causes. At 8 years old, Oprah was baptized in a Baptist church, but faith didn't shield her from what came next. Starting at 9, she endured abuse from people who were supposed to protect her, including family members and someone close to the household. Years later, when she finally spoke about it publicly, she revealed that those experiences shaped everything about how she saw the world and herself. When she tried to tell relatives as a young adult, they didn't believe her. She would later admit that she chose not to become a mother because she never truly felt mothered herself. By 13, carrying years of trauma inside her, Oprah ran away from home. At 14, she became pregnant. Her baby was born prematurely and died shortly after. Years later, when a family member sold that deeply personal story to the tabloids, Oprah said it felt like another betrayal layered on top of everything she had already survived. She returned to school, attending Lincoln Middle and High School in Milwaukee before transferring to Nicollet High School, a wealthy suburban campus that constantly reminded her of where she came from. She rode the bus alongside other black students who worked as servants for her classmates' families, and the gap between worlds followed her into every hallway. Trying to fit in, she began rebelling, stealing money from her mother just to keep up. Eventually, Vernita sent her back to Nashville, back to her father, and this time, Vernon refused to let her fall. He was strict, he was structured, and he was relentless about education. Under his roof, Oprah transformed. She became an honor student, was voted most popular girl, joined the speech team at East Nashville High School, and placed second nationally in dramatic interpretation. Years later, Oprah would say that when her father took her in, it changed the entire direction of her life, that he saved her simply by expecting more. She took her first job at a local grocery store and then, at 17, won the Miss Black Tennessee pageant. That win opened the door to a part-time news job at a black radio station called WVOL. She worked there through high school and into college, building confidence one broadcast at a time. An oratory contest earned her a full scholarship to Tennessee State University, where she studied communication. She didn't even complete her final paper until 1987, long after she had already become a television star. But when she finally did, the degree followed. And somehow, through all of it, the voice that started in church never disappeared. Her grandmother had seen it coming. As a child, Oprah practiced interviews with corncob dolls and talked to crows perched on fences. Hattie Mae encouraged her to speak up, to take space, to believe she mattered. Oprah would later credit her grandmother for giving her the courage to stand in front of people and for building the confidence that would eventually carry her onto screens across the world. Before there was fame, before there was fortune, before there was an empire, there was just a little girl in Mississippi learning how to survive. How Oprah took over daytime TV and built a media empire. By the time Oprah Winfrey stepped into local television, she wasn't just finding her voice, she was testing it against the world. In Nashville, she became both the youngest news anchor and the first black female anchor at WLAC-TV, often covering the same stories as John Tesh, who worked at a rival station across town. She was young, she was different, and she was already learning how unforgiving the industry could be. In 1976, she moved to Baltimore to co-anchor the 6 o'clock news at WJZ-TV, hoping this would be the next step up. Instead, a year later, she was removed from the anchor desk and pushed into lower-profile roles. For someone who had already survived so much, it was another reminder that nothing came easy. But Oprah didn't disappear. She pivoted. In 1978, she was recruited to co-host a local talk show called People Are Talking, and suddenly everything clicked. For the first time, she wasn't reading scripts or chasing headlines. She was listening, connecting, holding space. She also hosted Dialing for Dollars, but it was that talk show seat that revealed what she had been carrying all along. This wasn't just broadcasting. This was instinct. Then came Chicago. In 1984, Oprah relocated to host a struggling half-hour morning program on WLS-TV called AM Chicago. The show was dead last in ratings when she arrived. Within months, it wasn't just climbing, it was dominating. She overtook Phil Donahue and became the highest-rated talk show host in Chicago. That's when film critic Roger Ebert stepped in and urged her to go national, convincing her to sign a syndication deal with King World. He predicted she would generate 40 times the revenue of his own show. He wasn't wrong. AM Chicago became The Oprah Winfrey Show, expanded to a full hour, and went nationwide on September 8, 1986. Almost overnight, Oprah doubled Donahue's audience and took over daytime television. She wasn't louder than everyone else. She was warmer. She was real. And critics noticed. Time. The magazine wrote that in a field dominated by white men, Oprah stood apart, not because she was tougher, but because she led with curiosity, humor, and empathy. Guests cried on her couch, then kept talking. They opened up in ways they never imagined, turning her show into something closer to group therapy than television. TV columnist Howard Rosenberg called her a full-course meal, soulful and hungry, and said she knew exactly where Donahue's weak spot was. Newsday praised her wit and authenticity. The Wall Street Journal pointed out how grounded she was in her cultural and spiritual roots. But success didn't arrive clean. In the early years, her show leaned into tabloid-style storytelling. Then, in the mid-1990s, Oprah made a conscious shift. She widened the lens: heart disease, spirituality, meditation, geopolitics, addiction, charity, cancer. She brought celebrities on not just to promote movies, but to talk about what actually mattered to them. At the same time, controversy followed. Some accused her of giving platforms to voices rooted more in belief than science, including figures like Jenny McCarthy and Suzanne Summers, whose medical claims drew widespread criticism. Later, her former protégés Dr. Phil and Mehmet Oz would also face heavy backlash for promoting questionable health advice, with medical organizations calling on Oprah to publicly distance herself. Still, her reach was undeniable. In 1993, she hosted a rare primetime special, Michael Jackson Talks, to Oprah, which became one of the most watched events in American television history. More than 36 million people tuned in. In 2005, she reunited on air with David Letterman after 16 years apart, drawing his largest audience in over a decade. 2 years later, he appeared on her show, closing the loop on a rumored feud that never really existed. Beyond hosting, Oprah expanded. She produced and co-starred in The Women of Brewster Place, helped launch Oxygen, and built Harpo Productions, the powerhouse behind not just her own show, but spin-offs that reshaped daytime TV. In 2008, she announced plans for OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, which officially launched in 2011. That same year, on May 25th, she aired the final episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show, closing a 25-year chapter that had changed television forever. Her influence became known as the Oprah Effect. Books she recommended exploded into instant bestsellers. Entire markets shifted. Careers launched overnight when she introduced Oprah's book club. Even forgotten classics like East of Eden shot straight to the top of the charts. Authors gained millions of new readers. Reading itself became a shared cultural experience. In 2017, she joined 60 Minutes as a special contributor. In 2018, the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened an exhibit dedicated to her impact. That same year, she announced a multi-year partnership with Apple, creating original programming for Apple TV+, including Oprah's Book Club, Oprah Talks COVID-19, and The Oprah Conversation. From a low-rated morning show to a global media empire, from local news desks to shaping culture itself. And through it all, Oprah kept doing the same thing she learned as a little girl in Mississippi. She listened, she connected, and she made people feel seen. But power like that doesn't come without consequences. Because when your voice can turn books into bestsellers, launch careers overnight, and move entire markets with a single sentence, everything you do starts to carry extra weight. Every interview gets replayed. Every opinion gets dissected. And slowly, the same influence that built Oprah's empire also began to draw criticism. And that's where the story shifts. Oprah's most controversial moments. When fame, power, and public backlash collided. Even with all the money, the power, and the influence, Oprah Winfrey has never been immune to controversy. In fact, some of the loudest moments of her career didn't come from ratings victories or standing ovations. They came from the backlash. One of the earliest storms hit in 1996, after Oprah aired a segment on mad cow disease and admitted on air that the discussion had completely stopped her from eating burgers. The episode, titled Dangerous Food, featured animal rights activist Howard Lyman, who warned that mad cow disease could eventually tear through the American beef industry. Almost immediately, cattle prices dropped. Texas ranchers blamed Oprah's comments for damaging their livelihoods and took her to court under the state's food disparagement law. The lawsuit dragged on for 2 years, pulling national attention toward so-called veggie libel laws and raising uncomfortable questions about how much responsibility media figures carry when talking about public health. In 1998, a jury cleared Oprah of all liability, turning the case into a landmark free speech moment. But the message was already clear. Her words moved markets. Then there were the interviews. Back in 2004, Oprah sat down with teen stars Mary-Kate Olsen and Ashley Olsen on The Oprah Winfrey Show. Rumors were circulating that Mary-Kate was struggling with an eating disorder, and Oprah brought it up directly. Ashley brushed off the gossip, saying they didn't pay attention to tabloids. But Oprah pushed further, asking questions about their weight that visibly unsettled the sisters. At the time, the moment passed quietly. Years later, in 2021, the clip resurfaced online and exploded. Viewers called out the interview as invasive and inappropriate, especially since the twins were still minors, and Mary-Kate would later enter treatment for an eating disorder that same year. Another unforgettable moment came in 1993, when Michael Jackson finally agreed to sit down with Oprah after years of avoiding personal interviews. More than 60 million Americans tuned in, making it the most-watched TV interview in U.S. history. Oprah asked about everything the public had been whispering for years. Did he sleep in an oxygen chamber? Did he buy the remains of the Elephant Man? Did he bleach his skin because he didn't want to be black? And then came the question that stunned viewers. She asked if he was still a virgin. The interview peeled back a rare layer of Jackson's private world and marked one of the last times audiences saw him before sexual abuse allegations would dominate his public life. Even Oprah's own body became part of the spectacle. In 1988, she delivered one of the most iconic moments in daytime television. She walked onto her stage, slipped off an oversized coat, and rolled out a wagon holding 67 pounds of animal fat, the exact amount she had lost in under 5 months. She'd been running 6.5 miles a day and surviving on a liquid diet. The episode shattered ratings records and cemented her transformation in pop culture. Years later, Oprah admitted it had been driven by ego and revealed that she eventually regained all the weight, calling it one of the most regrettable moments of her career. And the controversies didn't stop with television. In August 2023, devastating wildfires tore through Maui, killing over 100 people and leaving billions in damage. Oprah teamed up with Dwayne Johnson to launch the People's Fund of Maui, announcing the effort on social media and kicking things off with $10 million of their own money. Almost instantly, criticism flooded in. Many questioned why a billionaire and a multimillionaire were asking everyday people to donate instead of contributing more themselves. Others suggested they reach out to their wealthy inner circles instead. Despite the backlash, Oprah defended the fundraiser, calling it a strong idea, even as she admitted feeling vilified online, from lawsuits to viral interviews, from weight loss spectacles to wildfire relief backlash. Every chapter reveals the same truth. Oprah's influence doesn't exist in small spaces. It moves people. It moves money. It sparks debate. And sometimes, it leaves scars. Oprah Winfrey lived a double life for decades, and fans never saw it. On screen, Oprah Winfrey always looks graceful, calm, grounded, like someone who has mastered both success and peace. But for as long as she has been alive, she has also been watched, questioned, and criticized in ways most people never experience. And nowhere is that more visible than in the relationships closest to her. For years, the public has tried to decode her bond with Gayle King. Nearly 50 years of friendship, loyalty, shared homes, shared careers, and shared milestones. And somehow, that still wasn't enough for people to simply accept what it was. The rumors never stopped. Were they secretly together? Was there something more? Why were they always side by side? Eventually, Oprah and Gayle decided to address it head-on. In a joint interview alongside Melinda French Gates, Oprah reflected on how long the speculation had followed them, explaining that people had been calling them gay for years and that they had been up against that narrative forever, adding that even now, people still believed it. Gayle jumped in, explaining how those assumptions made dating harder than it already was, saying she used to joke that Oprah should do an entire show about it because it was difficult enough trying to get a Saturday night date with people convinced they were a couple. Gayle, who shares 2 children with her ex-husband, William Bumpus, made it clear that if their friendship were romantic, they would simply say so. Oprah acknowledged that what unsettles people is not secrecy, but depth. She explained that maybe the world isn't used to seeing women with this kind of truth bond, adding that the reason their friendship has lasted is because Gail feels happier for Oprah's victories and challenges than Oprah sometimes feels for herself. That kind of connection didn't happen overnight. Their story goes back to the 1970s, when they met as young journalists at a Baltimore news station, both trying to find their footing. Gail later reflected that they bonded because their philosophies were almost identical, saying they were in sync on so many things and that she had never met anyone like Oprah before. From that moment on, they moved through life together. Oprah has often spoken about how Gail supported her career from the very beginning, especially during one pivotal moment. When Oprah was just turning 30 and had the chance to audition for a job in Chicago, nearly everyone told her she would fail if she went. Everyone except Gail. We all know how that turned out. Oprah didn't just succeed. She built an empire with the Oprah Winfrey Show, which ran for 25 years and reshaped daytime television. And Gail stayed right there beside her through every rise, every headline, every reinvention. Gail once said that if she didn't feel secure in herself, being Oprah's best friend might have bothered her. But she had anchored the news for years, won 3 Emmys, and proven who she was. She explained that she never felt like she stood in Oprah's shadow. She felt like she stood in her light. But Gail isn't the only relationship that has lived under a microscope. Oprah's partnership with Stedman Graham has been questioned for nearly 4 decades, largely because it refuses to follow a traditional path. They first met at a charity event in 1986. Oprah didn't think much of it at the time. She later wrote that she had seen him around town before, but he was always with the same girlfriend, so she paid little attention. Months later, they reconnected while visiting a mutual friend who was seriously ill and would later die of AIDS. That day, both Oprah and Stedman arrived alone. They left together, and Oprah asked if he wanted to grab a beer, admitting she drank a lot of beer back then and wore cowboy boots every day. He told her he didn't drink. Not then, not ever. She thought he seemed nice enough, but she and her producers were suspicious. He was handsome, too handsome. They assumed he must be a player. Instead, he became her steady ground. They began as friends. It wasn't until months later, after Oprah learned he had broken up with his girlfriend and had quietly been asking about her dating status, that she gave him serious thought. Early on, he commuted to her Chicago condo and eventually rented his own place just a few blocks away. By 1992, Oprah joked that he had finally started keeping a toothbrush at her apartment. What she once doubted, she came to admire deeply. She described him as a genuine gentleman, positive, kind, someone who truly wished people well. She wrote that he was steady as a mountain, even-tempered, accountable, trustworthy, patient. By December 1986, they were no longer hiding their relationship. They attended the premiere of Native Son together at the Apollo Theater in New York City and were photographed holding hands. Oprah starred in the film as Mrs. Thomas. A year later, Stedman made his first appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. During a live Q&A segment, he surprised Oprah by calling in, asking what she had been telling Gail about him. Oprah immediately recognized his voice and called him Steady Honey. He joked that every time he saw Gail in person, he wondered what she knew about him, saying he had to look down when he saw her because he didn't know if she knew how many gray hairs he had or what color his toes were. Oprah laughed and brushed it off, telling him she would explain later. After 6 years together, Stedman proposed in October 1992. Oprah later recalled being at her Indiana farmhouse with Gail when Stedman arrived and popped the question. She remembered asking if this was really the proposal, and he told her he wanted her to marry him. She said yes. But almost immediately, doubt followed. In a 2020 essay, Oprah revealed that she realized she didn't actually want marriage. She wanted to be asked. She wanted to know he felt she was worthy of being his wife. but she didn't want the sacrifices and compromises that come with marriage. Her show was her priority, and they both understood that. In 1993, they called off the engagement but stayed together. She later admitted that had they married, they likely would not still be together. Stedman has spoken openly about supporting Oprah's success, saying he wanted her to be as successful as possible and that he encouraged it, even though it isn't always easy being a man in a relationship with a powerful woman. He made it clear he was never threatened by her fame, money, or influence. Still, the rumors never stopped. In 2016, reports surfaced claiming they had secretly married. Oprah shut it down herself, posting that 6 people who knew her well had called to congratulate her or ask why they weren't invited to the wedding, making it clear the story was not true. Oprah later explained on Gwyneth Paltrow's podcast that she stopped making frequent public appearances with Stedman because every new photo created a new story. She said she was exhausted by the number of untrue narratives about her life and even sought guidance from Maya Angelou on how to cope with it. In 2019, Oprah shared that she had no regrets about not marrying or having children. She explained that while she once considered motherhood, she came to understand the depth of responsibility it required and admitted she didn't have the ability to compartmentalize. She spoke about working 17-hour days, coming home to her dogs and to Stedman, who allowed her to be who she needed to be in the world without making demands. Instead of biological children, Oprah poured her heart into something else. In 2007, after promising Nelson Mandela that she would create opportunities for poor and disenfranchised girls, she opened the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for girls in South Africa, investing more than $40 million into the school. She has often referred to the students and alumni as her daughters, calling them her greatest joy, but even that dream carried shadows. In 2009, students were expelled and suspended following allegations of sexual misconduct among classmates. Around the same time, a dorm matron faced charges for allegedly sexually assaulting students during the school's first year. Though the official was later acquitted, Oprah expressed profound disappointment in the outcome and settled a defamation lawsuit brought by the school's headmistress, whom she had fired after earlier abuse claims. Then, in 2011, police opened an investigation after a student arrived at a hospital with the body of a newborn. Authorities believed the baby had been born at the academy. The teenager was treated for excessive bleeding. No immediate charges were filed, but the incident reignited scrutiny around the school and its troubled history. For Oprah, a survivor of abuse herself, it was devastating. And yet, through every rumor, every headline, every misunderstanding, Oprah kept moving forward. At 72, she spoke about gratitude, about breath, about the miracle of her heart still beating, about realizing you have more than you imagine when you start with thankfulness. And that's when it all comes into focus. Because Oprah Winfrey didn't just build an empire, she learned how to live inside 2 worlds at once. The public one, filled with applause, power, and expectation. And the private one, shaped by friendship, complicated love, hard choices, and scars that never made headlines. That's the double life fans never truly saw. What are your thoughts on Oprah? Do you think she is indeed a strong woman for standing tall after everything she went through? Share your hows with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.